Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. Once again, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. The last time we meet on our class of Sahih Bukhari, we have discussed some aspects of classification of hadith and the principle of judgment, the two major aspects in judging a hadith. And as a revision, we would like to remind ourselves of what we regard as the riwayat and the dirayat. That is, by riwayat, we mean the narration of the hadith, and by the dirayat, by riwayat, we mean the version of the hadith, and by dirayat, we mean the context of the hadith. So, by riwayat, when I say the narration, I mean the version of the hadith that comes with the people who brings a hadith, this person, then that person to this person, one after the other, that are listed in the uh, narration of a hadith, and by dirayat, the context or the content that the hadith itself entails. So today, inshallah, bikratullah, we'll be dealing with the istilahaat, that is the terminologies that are used in hadith. The riwayat and dirayat are also part of the terminology, and they are the main or the major part. But when we get into the classification of hadith based on riwayat and based on dirayat, then there are some set of terminologies that are used, and those terminologies will be what we'll be facing, what we'll be discussing today. One thing I would like to also remind us is that based on the classification, when I talk of the riwayat and dirayat, we should understand that the Jamaat Islamiyah Ahmadiyya, to the best of my knowledge, set more focus on the dirayat, this, over the riwayat. Again, the Jamaat, to the best of my knowledge, set more focus on the dirayat over the riwayat. That is not because the riwayat is not as important, it's not important. On the contrary, it will be understood that during the period of the past, the time of those scholars, the scholars have done a great job for us by compiling the ahadith. And according to that Imam Mahdi alayhi salatu wasalam, their era was the era of compilation. So, because as I mentioned last week, you remember, in the last class, you remember that there have been many narrators up to the point that there were around 500,000 people that those who compiled the hadith had to work on, based on the aspect of Asma Rijal, to know the details of each and every one of them, all because there are people who were already forging the narrations of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and in order to save the ummah from them, from those people who were forging the narration of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they had to go through those milestones, make strenuous efforts in order to establish the authenticity of each and every ahadith. Therefore, their focus then used to be on riwayat. Now, the moment we are goes for the moment to consider what they have narrated based on dirayat, meaning we look into the context, the contents, and we see them in line with the Holy Quran and the Sunnah of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Therefore, when we get into the other division of on the Istilahaat of Ahadith, do not at any point in time harbor it in mind based on the terminologies that will be used for certain ahadith, that okay, because this was not had this terminology, it means the hadith should be rejected, and because this had this terminology, it means without any point of doubt the statement is directly from the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. No, we don't have that concept. The general concept is that the ahadith, the highest point of consideration for hadith is still conjecture. That is, we are only considering that there is very high probability that the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had actually said this. Otherwise, we weren't present. Those who compiled the hadith weren't present when the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was making the statement. So, to the best of their ability, they have tried to compile the hadith with authenticity. They've tried to authenticate them. Now, I mentioned last time as well that a hadith may actually fail on authenticity just by 1%, meaning it will pass every rule of a hadith, or I mean, every rule set for the authenticity of a hadith, except just one very minor thing. And because of that, the hadith will not be graded as sahih, that is authentic. So many a time when we are reading hadith nowadays, we'll just see that the main thing we always see is either they classify the hadith as sahih or da'if. At times we see Hassan, but the major thing we see is Sahih and Da'if. What makes a hadith Sahih? What makes it not Sahih? We'll be looking into them one after the other. Then we'll realize that calling a hadith Da'if does not necessarily mean the hadith is not from the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and calling it Sahih does not necessarily mean that the hadith is obviously or 100% from the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It is just is a point of probability that those scholars have worked to review the content and the version of the hadith in order to establish that this hadith is sahih. I gave you an example last week based on a particular narration that a hadith is classified not to be sahih all because of the name Umar or Amr. Other narrations had said Amr, and a particular narration says Umar. Now, the writing of Amr and Umar are the same. Ain Mimro, Ain Mimro. All you needed is the haraka on the first letter. Either it is Dhamma or Fatha. Then, as an extension, you may add Waw at the end of Amr. So, when the scholars of Hadith who were classifying the Ahadith of the Holy Prophet ﷺ look into this, they realize that others who narrated this Hadith had narrated it with the name Amru, Amru, Amru. And you have narrated it with the name Umar. Therefore, the Hadith is not classified as Munkar. Now that it is classified as Munkar does not mean the Hadith is not from the Holy Prophet ﷺ. It only became a probability that when others have this narration, then you that you have this narration may likely be wrong as against those who have it in a different way. So the very first thing we need to know is what is called matn. Classification of hadith based on the matn. That is, when we are talking of the matn, we mean the content that comes in a hadith. That is the text itself. So in that case, a hadith may be considered sahih. It will be considered sahih if it fulfills all the recommendation or all the what is required of the principle of hadith. If there is no flaw noticeable by those who work on the hadith, by the scholars of hadith, they categorize it as sahih, that is authentic. But if they see some flaws in it, they categorize it as da'if, which means it is weak. There could be many reasons to make it weak, but immediately they consider a hadith weak, it means that this hadith, I mean, on the aspect of matnon, on the classification, on the principle of dirayat, when a hadith is considered to be da'if, it means the content of that hadith does not fit the content of the Holy Quran and the Sunnah of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam based on matnon. If it fits the like the contents or the Holy Quran, the principle of the Holy Quran and the Sunnah of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then the hadith will be considered as sahih. Now, this aspect of da'if will not, on the classification of matn, will now be at the idea, I mean, be based on the idea of each and every scholar that is working on the hadith. It is possible that a hadith is presented and the scholar could not understand it, or based on historical record, he couldn't see, I mean, he noticed some discrepancies in the historical record. Therefore, the hadith is judged to be da'if. Now, when another scholar of hadith, considering the text this time around, I'm not talking of the version or the chain of narration, another scholar of hadith then look into the content of that hadith or look into the historical record and the situation for which that hadith is narrated, and is able to establish that this actually fits into this particular situation or this particular uh, occurrence or this particular content of the Holy Quran or Sunnah of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, then from that the perspective of that scholar, the hadith that was initially considered sahih, I mean da'if, may then be considered as sahih. So based on the matnu of hadith, hadith can be sahih and da'if, but that is dependent on the person that is studying it, if he's able to unite it with the Holy Quran and Sunnah of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then another classification which we have is Hasan. By Hasan, we mean that it cannot be discarded based on its contents, because it gives good information, it gives good exhortation. But when we look into some aspect of it, one is not that sure if this message is truly from the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam or not. Meaning, for certain reasons which the scholars could understand or could not understand, they couldn't grade it on the best content. Why? Because there may be another hadith that contradicts that hadith. So if there is another hadith that is graded sahih that contradicts this hadith, and there is good godly exhortation in it as well. For example, the Holy Prophet ﷺ encouraged us to do this, this, and this. Then another hadith relating the same content says that the Holy Prophet ﷺ said that we should do this, this, and this. Now, maybe the Holy Prophet ﷺ had commanded 4 things in this hadith, and in the other hadith, there are other 4 things. But there are 4 things as well. But in the 2, 3 are the same. Then 1 is different. One content is different. Or there is a particular content found in a hadith that is not found in the other hadith. That means it becomes the issue that, was this actually how the Holy Prophet ﷺ listed it, when other versions had listed it like this, that other authentic versions listed this, and that. But another version also listed things that are godly or godly exhortation, but the content is slightly different from the ones that is generally known. We will not discard the one that is a bit different, but it will not be considered as Hasan, because the godly exhortation is still there. And we cannot say it is not from the Holy Prophet ﷺ. It is only that it has come in between a point of doubt if all this that is listed were stated by the Holy Prophet ﷺ or not, because other versions do not have it. So you always see, when you come across such hadith, that these scholars of hadith will now quote the other version to indicate that, okay, the other versions have this particular content as well, or this is what is prominent in other version of the hadith. Then we have the classification as maudu. When we say a hadith is maudu, it simply means it is forged. It is forged. Now, when they say hadith is forged, it is, how do we know? Either the person who forged it confessed, either the person had confessed that he actually forged this hadith, or the context of the hadith itself already revealed that this hadith is forged, because it cannot be attributed to the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Like, if the statement in the hadith is totally illogical and goes against the Holy Quran, goes against the practice of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then you call it a statement of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then that hadith will likely be a forged hadith. Likewise, those who were forging the hadith at some point in time were also caught when the scholars of hadith continue to uh, make findings on those people. They started making their research. I gave an example last time that a particular hadith was spreading about, and one of the scholars wanted to know the source. Then it was being directed from one city to the other, from one city to the other. Then, upon getting to the final city, he met the scholar that was said to have the original version of that hadith. Then that scholar directed him to another Sufi. Upon reaching that Sufi, the Sufi then confessed that he was actually the one who forged this statement just to encourage people to pay attention to certain things that they are no more paying attention to in Islam. So that hadith will be considered to be maudu, all because the person who forged it had confirmed that he forged it. Then we have the hadith that is regarded as mudraj. When a hadith is regarded as mudraj, sorry, let me first go to ma'lul. A hadith that is considered to be ma'lul is such that all conditions of it fulfills all conditions of authenticity, but there could be minor doubts in it. Because of that minor doubt that is noticed by the scholars of hadith, they wouldn't be able to consider it to be authentic anymore. So they give it the terminology ma'lul, meaning yes, it is likely perfect, but it has weakness from Allah. So it has a little weakness in it. And by that weakness, they will not say that the statement of the Holy Prophet ﷺ is having weakness, but they will consider it that, okay, this narration that reached us is having the weakness. So it is considered as ma'lul. Now, mudraj, that is interpolated, meaning the person who narrated the hadith had likely added his own words into it. Maybe out of the effort to understand the hadith or the statement of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, he added his own statement within the hadith, and that statement which he added was detected. So by that, the hadith will be considered mudraj, meaning it is not considered as sahih, but not to be rejected. It is simply interpolated. The statement of the Holy Prophet ﷺ is in the hadith, but the person had added his own understanding to it. Now, this could be positive, it could be negative. It could be positive in the sense that he was explaining to people a particular statement of the Holy Prophet ﷺ that, okay, this, and that were the teachings of the Holy Prophet ﷺ. Why explaining, he might have made a statement which the people who were to narrate the hadith later on consider to be statement of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, when other versions of that hadith will come, then they will realize that the statement that they've copied from that man was, in as a particular content which is not in other hadith. So by that, it will be stated that that person, there was an interpolation in it. There was a possible interpolation in the hadith. Likewise, it could be negative, that the person was trying to narrate a hadith out of hypocrisy, or out of because he belongs to a sect and he had some gain, personal gain, he wants to take out of that particular narration on the name of the Holy Prophet ﷺ. So obviously, it will be that he had narrated the statement of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, but added his own statement in order to give the statement of the Holy Prophet ﷺ a different meaning, so that it will go in line with his ideology in the sight or in the mind of people. So that hadith will be termed as mudraj when the interpolation is detected. Now, we have muttarab. When a hadith is considered muttarab, it means that there was clear difference of opinion from narrators. This narrator narrated it like this, another narrator narrated it like that, then another. Then when you have so many conflicting versions, then you will not say it wasn't the Holy Prophet ﷺ that made the statements anymore, because very likely one of them will be right, or few of them will be right. They've only narrated it based on what they could recall, and maybe some other things is missing from this person, which is in that of the other person, or missing from that person, missing from this person. Present in the narration of that person and missing from this one. So because of that difference of opinion from narrators, the hadith will be classified as muttarab. Now, a hadith is classified as fard as well. Hadith can be classified as fard when it is a people that belong to a particular location that have that hadith. It is only known to the people of this location, like maybe it is only known to the people of Basra, or to the people of Khurasan, or to the people of Medina. Now, that hadith could be truly from the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, but unfortunately, the information of it doesn't spread. Maybe the companion that was present with the Holy Prophet ﷺ that day was alone, and because after the Holy Prophet ﷺ, the companions traveled far and wide in the spread of Islam. So that companion that had that particular narration traveled to Basra, for example. In Basra, he narrated that hadith to others, that I was with the Holy Prophet ﷺ when he said this. But he was the only one with him, and he had narrated the hadith to the people of Basra. Now, the people of Khurasan, the people of Misr, the people of Medina, Mecca, and the likes may not be aware of it. So, for the fact that they are not aware of it does not mean the hadith is weak or is wrong. But you cannot put it on high priority, all because the hadith also needs to have witnesses. The person narrating it on the name of that companion may also forge it and try to make the impression that it is from the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And it could be it is exactly from the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, but this time around there are no other witnesses. So only people of a particular location are aware of it. Now, instead of classifying it as Sahih, it will be considered as Fard. So that is classification under Matn, that is the content of a hadith. Now, there is another classification that comes based on the reliability of narrators. So, the scholars try to understand how reliable the narrators are. I've mentioned that they work so much on the Asma Rijal, the people that were narrating the hadith of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so that whatever they handed down from their time to us, we can actually grade what they are presenting. So we do not mix the true message from the first one. And if there is some errors, we can easily identify them based on certain conditions that they already set. So this clarification based on the reliability of narrators can also start with Sahih. A hadith will be considered to be Sahih when all narrators of it are considered to be religious, conscious, being of sound mind, truthful, bear good memory, free from all allegations, without discrepancies in words and meanings. By that, they have fulfilled each and every quality they expect from a standard narrator of hadith. So if the hadith comes from the people that in each and every section of the chain, from the companion to the tabi'in to the tabi'in, those people within the line of narration were considered to have fulfilled all expectation of the narrator of a hadith, then that hadith will be considered sahih based on the reliability of narration. The second category here as well will be Hassan. By Hassan here, it will mean that we have these narrators that are reliable, but unfortunately, the narrations that they brought have different of words. There are difference of words in their narration. So they will be considered, that hadith from those reliable people, but with different words, will now be considered to be Hassan and not Sahih. Then we have Da'if on this particular clarification as well. Classification. And that is when any of the narrator falls short of any conditions of reliability, meaning all the conditions that were set for the reliability of hadith, of a narrator, if any of them, of those who narrate that hadith, fall short of any condition, for example, he was ever accused of lying or was caught lying, then the hadith that is coming from him will not be considered to be da'if. The next classification, the next terminology is matruk. Sorry, when the lifestyle and other conditions are not fulfilled, that is when it is considered as da'if. But it will be matruk when one of those people was ever accused of lying. If he bears the accusation of lying, then the hadith will be matruk. Now let's be very careful in this particular context. The person may bear accusation of lying once, and because of that, the hadith is considered matruk. That does not mean the hadith itself will be false, because even people that are considered to be habitual liar, it does not mean that they are lying in each and every statement of their life. The only problem here is, so far this person has been accused of lie, it becomes difficult to know if he is speaking the truth or he is lying. Was he speaking the truth or was he lying? He might be speaking the truth that time when he is narrating this hadith. Therefore, this truth of the statement of the Holy Prophet ﷺ would remain. But because of the accusation that the person bears, that hadith of his will be considered as matruk. So that a hadith is considered matruk does not mean it is no more the statement of the Holy Prophet ﷺ. It is only giving us the indication that let's be careful. If there is hadith that contradicts this particular narration, then it is very much possible that this person who narrated this who narrated it was also lying on this, because he actually bears the accusation of lie. Now, munkar, I have made the example of this one before, and that is when a hadith opposes the narration or the chain of narration of other reliable narrators. Then the hadith is considered to be munkar. That was when I was giving you the example of Amr and Umar. When other reliable narrators say that this is the chain of narration, or this is the statement, but you have brought a different chain of narration other than what others are having, then that hadith will be classified as munkar. Yours may be right, theirs may be wrong, but yet the probability that theirs are right and yours is wrong is higher. Therefore, their hadith that goes, their version that goes in line will be considered to be sahih, while yours that opposes theirs in chain of narration will be considered as munkar. Many a time this goes in on the people that narrate. The issue comes on the name that are found in the list of the narrators, not that the hadith itself. The hadith itself may have the same content exactly. They said this, and this other person also said the same thing. But when they are listing their own narrators, there was difference in the chain of narration. Now, a hadith can be considered to be ma'ruf. Sorry. When it is agreed upon. Meaning, despite the fact that there could be some discrepancies, some weakness for which the hadith may not be considered to be sahih, but there is a unanimous agreement on the instruction that comes in it. Many a time, the aspect of sunnah or the dua that are recited may also be considered as ma'ruf. If the narrator cannot be, if the chain of narration cannot be considered to be sahih, based on the chain of narration, it may not be considered to be sahih, but this thing has gone to the point that each and every one, right from the time of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, the companions, the tabi'in, were reciting, let's say, a dua this way. But now, when it comes to the documentation of that hadith, there are some weakness in the chain of narration. Yet everybody understand that this is how we are reciting this hadith. Then the hadith becomes ma'ruf because it is unanimously agreed upon, despite the weakness in the chain of narration. That is based on the chain of narration. Now, the other thing we look into, which is very much closely related to this, is chain of transmission. Just write it out. Now, by chain of transmission, we will be referring to, we won't be talking about the personality anymore, or their virtue, the virtue of their life, their virtual state, but we'll be talking about how those people link to one another. So the very first one here is called marfu. A hadith is considered as marfu when the chain of that narration reaches the Holy Prophet Muhammad. When the hadith is attributed to the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, meaning the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said this, then the hadith will be considered to be marfu, meaning it is attributed directly to the Holy Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. We have the next to be muttasil. When we say a hadith is muttasil, that means the chain of narration from one point to the other, from the tabi'in to the tabi'in to the companion, then reaches the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then that hadith will be categorized as muttasil. It reaches the final points of narration, that is the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then we have munqati. A hadith will be considered to be munqati when a section of the narrator is missing, meaning why the narration is going from one point to the other, maybe the section of the tabi'in is missing, or the section of the particular companion who narrated this is missing. Yet the hadith is attributed to the Holy Prophet ﷺ, that the Holy Prophet ﷺ had said this. But in the chain of narration, a section of the narrators is missing. Then that particular hadith will be considered as munqati. Beyond munqati, we have mu'allaq. A hadith will be categorized as mu'allaq when more than one section of the narrators is missing. More than one sections of the narrators are missing. Then the hadith will be considered mu'allaq. Now, there is the terminology musannad, and it is used when the narrators are mentioned by name. This person to this person to this person to this person. The name of each and every individual is mentioned. Then that hadith will be considered as musannad. Thereafter, we have a hadith that is categorized as mursal. That it will be categorized as mursal if it is narrated on the authority of an unnamed companion. The name of the companion is not given. The name of the companion who bore the narration, who was present or who narrated the hadith, was not mentioned. Or to the companion the incident happened for which the hadith came about. If the companion's name was not mentioned, then that hadith will be regarded as mursal. Now we have the terminology mu'an'an. A hadith is considered to be mu'an'an when the narration comes in the form of and this person and that person and that person. Then the hadith will now be regarded as mu'an'an. Now, another classification of the hadith comes on the number of narrators. The number of narrators is also one of the things the scholars of hadith put into consideration when they were classifying the hadith. Now, the very first one to be mentioned is mashhur. When a hadith has many narrators, in different eras, the hadith is considered to be mashhur, that is popular. This hadith is popular. Then we have the terminology mutawatir. I'm trying to move a bit faster so that we can complete this section today, inshallah. When a hadith is considered mutawatir when the narrators are so many that it becomes impossible to consider that all of them have unanimously lied over it, then it will be regarded as mutawatir. It has many narrators from different places. So it became impossible in the mind of anyone to say that all these people who were at different places and with this their huge number could have forged a lie, and their lie will be the same, will be unanimous. So that means when a hadith goes beyond that level, I mean, it reaches the level that the narrators are so many that they couldn't, it couldn't be conceived that they unanimously agreed upon it to lie, then the hadith is considered mutawatir. Now we have gharib. A hadith will be considered gharib if it has a narrator in a particular era, meaning either in the era of the Sahaba, or in the era of the Tabi'in, or in the era of the Taba Tabi'in, there was a single narrator of that hadith. Then the hadith will be classified as gharib. Now that it has a single narrator does not make it weak. Before you'll be reading a hadith tomorrow and it is classified as gharib, then someone will say because the hadith is gharib, it should be rejected. No. It only indicates that in a particular era, not even in all eras, in a particular era, it had a single narrator. Then we have the terminology fard again, and that is when a hadith is considered is used to have a single narrator in each and every era. See the difference between gharib and fard. In gharib, it means in all out of all eras, there is a particular era wherein that particular hadith was having just a single narrator. But in the case of fard, in each and every era of its narration, there was just a single individual, meaning a single companion, a single tabi, a single taba tabi'in. Then when they are compiling it as well, the person who compiled it, I mean the one who compiled it was the only one. You only find it in the hadith of that single compilation. So the hadith will be considered to be fard. Now, a hadith can be considered as aziz when there are two narrators in each and every era. In each and every era, there are two narrators. Then the hadith will be considered gharib. Aziz. Now, a hadith will be considered as ahad when it doesn't have many narrators. When there are very few narrators of a hadith, then that hadith is considered ahad. The next thing we consider in the classification of hadith is the source of narration. The scholars of hadith looked into the source as well. That's where is this hadith coming from? So the very first one is ma'ruf. A hadith will be considered to be ma'ruf if the word or the action or the permission for that action was given by the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then it is ma'ruf, meaning it is the word of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that is narrated in the hadith, or the action of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or the permission that was given was from the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In whichever way, so far it is directly attributed to the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then it is ma'ruf. On the contrary, a hadith will be termed as mawkuf if the narration, the statement, the action, or the permission was granted by a companion of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, meaning the word, the companion is responsible for the statement, even though it is considered a hadith because it is something that might have happened in the lifetime of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It happened during his lifetime, and they were narrating, this is what we do at this time, at this time, at this time, in the presence of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, or when we were on journey, the Prophet ﷺ sent us on this journey, we did this and that, or within the communication of the companions, a companion gave permission of a thing based on his knowledge of what he had learnt from the Holy Prophet ﷺ. Then because it is attributed to that companion and not the Holy Prophet ﷺ directly, the hadith is given the term mawkuf. Now, a hadith will be called maktu when it is limited to the era of the tabi'in, meaning the one responsible for that word or action or permission is a tabi', a follower of the companion. He himself wasn't a companion. And it will be regarded as munqati when it belonged to the era of the tabi'in, those who follow the followers of the companion, those who learn from those who learn from the students of the companion, meaning the students of the companions were their teachers. Now, if a hadith, if a statement or an action or permission that is mentioned in a particular hadith is is limited to that particular era, then the hadith will be given the terminology munqati. So by all this, marfu, mawkuf, maktu, munqati does not mean the hadith should be rejected. It's only giving us the information of the source of the hadith. Now, we have the next classification as mode of narration. The mode of narration is also much important to us, to the scholars of hadith. So the very first one that I would like to mention was the word that was jumping into my mouth the other time. That is mudallas. A hadith is considered to be mudallas when the narrator is from the one who was narrating the hadith belong to the contemporary era, meaning the period of compilation of the hadith. That hadith will be mudallas, or when the narrator and the one he is narrating from are from the same era, they are contemporary, meaning, how do I put it, a companion narrated on the authority of another companion, a tabi narrated on the authority of another tabi, or a tabi narrated on the authority of another tabi. By all this, the source, meaning the one he is narrating from and the one who is narrating, are contemporary, but they are not the main source of the hadith, of the narration. Meaning, they are not, for example, the tabi'in is not narrating from the one whom the other person learned from. He is not narrating from the main source of the hadith. On the contrary, he learned it from another person who told him that this particular person gave this narration. So, I and you, we are contemporary. We could learn, let's say both of I and you belongs to the era of the tabi'in. We do not belong, but I'm giving it as example. I and you belong to the era of tabi'in. Now, if I am narrating from a tabi', then I have a source. But on the contrary, if I am narrating from you and you have taken that hadith, that narration from a tabi', then my narration is no more from the source because I didn't hear it from the source. On the contrary, I heard it from you, who is my contemporary. The next terminology is mudraj, and that is when the narrator has added his own word in the hadith that he is narrating a hadith and his own word is present in the hadith, then that hadith will be termed as mudraj. Then again, under this mode of narration, mu'an'an appears again, meaning how the narration was presented came in the term of an 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 and this person to and that person to from the and this person to from and that person. That is mu'an'an. Then we have maklub. If there is alteration in the name or appellation of the narrators, then the hadith will be considered as maklub. And finally, we have mubham. A hadith is termed as mubham when the narration is not from a popular narrator or there are some doubts in the narration, then that hadith will be termed as mubham. Also, that does not mean the narration is not from the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The only difference is the hadith is giving us, the terminology is giving us a reason to be careful in consideration of that particular hadith. With all I've mentioned, I would like to know, probably there is anything anyone would like to add, or there is any question on any of the terminology. Okay, let me just go through the comments and see probably anything had come. Okay, I can see there is a question here. Let me just display it. The question states regarding ma'ruf, that is based on the reliability of narrators, that it was agreed upon to be okay despite a break in chain. Who are those that made the agreement? Kindly get this particular aspect clear, that when I say it is ma'ruf and we are talking of you use a particular terminology despite a break in chain, it is not compulsory that there should be a break in chain before a hadith will be considered ma'ruf. I had only mentioned this particular perspective so that when a hadith is considered ma'ruf and there is a breakage in chain, then the hadith still remains valid, is what I'm talking about. If there was no breakage in the chain of narration, it could still be ma'ruf. That's the very first thing I would like to indicate. Then the second thing is when there is breakage in chain, those who made the agreements, it's not a matter of an individual or scholars we are referring to, but based on what people have learned generation after generation. Many a time, the prayers which we learn always fall under this particular category. It means the people have learned this prayer verbatim. For example, the dua kunut. Many of the dua kunut, basically, commonly the dua kunut that are existing, most of them are not classified as sahih. But that does not mean that dua will be rejected. It was learnt from the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The narrators from people from generation to generation had learnt that hadith as what they are learning as part of their prayers, as part of their dua. But when it came to the point of documentation of that hadith, the chain that the hadith followed, there was an issue in the chain. Now the hadith that everybody know already, the dua that everybody know will not be regarded as weak or rejected. It will not be regarded as a particular dua that you should not reject it all because there was one person or two person that are missing in the narration, or someone has been accused before, not accused based on this particular hadith, but there was an allegation or there is an error in the chain of narration. Everybody know this dua. Everyone knows the dua, and it is unanimously agreed upon that this dua is from the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Unfortunately, those who present their narration on that particular hadith, there is an issue on it, and because of that, the hadith is regarded as ma'ruf. So that is what I was referring to. It is not necessary that the hadith must have some flaw or some breakage. Then the last statement is, let me show it. Also, in the last class on authenticity, you mentioned that if there is a break in chain of transmission, then it is not classified as authentic. Yes, this is the same thing I'm saying. Because there's breakage in the transmission, it means it did not fulfill all the requirements or the principle of riwayat. But that does not mean the statement is not from the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Therefore, the hadith will not be classified as sahih because it doesn't fulfill all the conditions of riwayat. All the principles of riwayat. But yet, because it is already known to be a prayer learnt directly from the Holy Prophet ﷺ, or a practice learnt directly from the Holy Prophet ﷺ, maybe a particular action during Hajj, a particular action when he was fasting, this and that, and it is popularly known, or a particular action on Salat, for example. All these were existing and it is generally known, but the narration, when the time of narrating hadith came in, the narration had some issues in it, then the hadith will not be classified as sahih because of the problem in the riwayat, not the problem in the riwayat this time around. At this juncture, a statement or an explanation of Hadrat Masih Maud alayhi salatu wasalam will be very much important. And this goes to those who were rejecting the hadith in his era. They were rejecting the hadith of the Holy Prophet ﷺ. Most especially they still remain till now the sect of the Ahlul Quran. Now, he presented a statement both in their favor and against them. In their favor, in the sense that the companions and the tabi'in, the taba tabi'in, were practicing each and every aspect of Islam. Islam was complete and perfect before the era wherein they were compiling the Ahadith of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now the question was, Islam was complete and perfect even when the Hadith were not compiled. But that does not mean the Hadith will be rejected. So this is the kind of thing we are referring to in this particular context. Islam was complete and perfect. People were observing 5 daily salats. They were fasting. They were performing all rites of Hajj without the documentation of the Ahadith. So that shows that there was no flaw in Islam, despite the absence of the compilation of Hadith. But at the same time, it does not mean we should reject Hadith because it is a treasure from the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that is handed over to us from that era. So now I would like to know if there is any other question that may come up, or there is any other comments that anyone may like to add, or any clarification. Please, all are welcome to make their inputs if they have any. I'll be sharing the link, the studio link again, Maybe people watching from YouTube may need the link to get in order to make their comments. Okay. In the absence of no comments, then we'll get to close the class for today, and inshallah we'll be meeting the same time on Monday, inshallah ta'ala, to get another section of it. And we are already getting close to the end of the introductory section to the document, that is the commentary of Sahih Bukhari. By the time we complete the introductory section, then we get into the Ahadith. We'll start reading them one after the other and taking the commentary on them. So there are many comments that were already made, but I had to omit them so that we complete this particular section on time. And that is because when we get into the ahadith, we'll be repeating those contents appear in the commentary of the hadith which were quoted. So that's why I'm not giving so much example on this classification and many other things. So I hope and pray that Allah the Almighty keep us safe and keep guiding us aright. We shall meet the same time on Monday, inshallah ta'ala. Until that time, I say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.